Hello guys, good morning. How are you? Okay, today we are going to do a special class. Okay, and for the first time you can see my face recorded. Okay, it's a big new for everybody. Okay, last time, if you remember, last week we have studied the International Committee of Red Cross. It was the last part related with ONGS, this organization, World Association related with the United Nations. So today I am very proud to present you a very good friend. Okay, we grow up together in the same city, and his name is Andrea Anselmi. Andrea has been during 5 years a team member of ECRC. ECRC is the International Committee of Red Cross in different missions in Africa, Asia, in particular in South Sudan, Yemen and Syria, three, as you know, of the most dangerous and conflictive countries in the world. Andrea is going to tell us what is International Committee of Red Cross, what they do, but also why it is a necessary organization to fight diseases and provide medical care. Andrea has risked several times his life doing this job. So I hope you can appreciate his testimony. With the video, you will find also a PowerPoint with some pictures taken by himself during the mission. So enjoy the video, pay attention, and let's do some exercise related to that, okay? Bye-bye, see you next time.
Hello everybody, my name is Andrea, I'm Italian, I come from the north of Italy, and I was asked to provide some short details about the International Committee of the Red Cross, known as the ICRC, the acronym is ICRC, which is a humanitarian organization which is not exactly linked to the United Nations, it's not even exactly an NGO, sort of midway. I studied political science and economics, and then I worked for the ICRC during almost 5 years in 3 different missions in South Sudan, in Yemen and in Syria. I will try later to send you some pictures that maybe can be interesting, otherwise there are like many images on YouTube on the ICRC website. Anyway, I think like the 3 things to be remembered about the ICRC are: first, the organization has a long history, more than 150 years. It's an organization focusing on conflicts, wars, and the third thing is that usually we link the activities of the Red Cross to the medical services, because the Spanish Red Cross, the Italian Red Cross, the French Red Cross deal with ambulances and health. While the International Committee of the Red Cross is a sort of like big sister of the national ones and deals with a variety of different activities. So it was created in 1863 with the initiative of a Swiss businessman that was like traveling in Italy and came across a fight in the north of Italy, in Solferino, between the Austrian army at that time and the French one. And what he saw were the consequences of this fight, of this clash, on the soldiers. So he saw all the people like killed or wounded, and he decided to create with the local population a sort of assistance to the wounded people. So actually it started as a health organization to deal with wounded and prisoners mainly, saying that regardless the party that you are, so if you are from an army, from another army, you are a human being, so you need to be treated and to be respected as a human. At that time, like in the 19th century, wars and conflicts were causing mainly casualties, so killed or wounded people, in the armies, because you had like 2 armies facing each other and shooting each other. So actually the civilian population was a little bit spared. But during the 20th century and now, actually, like the proportion changed radically, and usually like more than 90% of the people that have or suffer consequences from the conflicts are civilians. So people that should not be involved in this kind of activities. So what the states in general and the ICRC were doing during the 20th century, especially like after the Second World War, was to create some conventions. We call them like the Geneva Conventions. There are 4 that try to create some rules of war. So what armies or rebel groups can do during a conflict and what they cannot do. Like for instance, like one of the first, I mean, legally it's not exactly this, but one of the first rights that you have in during a wartime compared to a normal time is to kill someone. I mean, if you are a soldier, you have the right to kill another soldier. The only thing that you have to respect is that you have to shoot or to target civilian populations, religious structures, churches, mosques. You don't have to target hospitals, schools, or any kind. You have to avoid any kind of activity that can harm the civilians. So now the ICRC is working in conflicts. It can be a conflict between like 2 armies, as I don't know, in the Second World War, between an army and rebel groups, as in Syria or in Colombia with the government and FARC in the past years, between 2 rebel groups, as in Congo, or the ICRC is working in urban violence contexts, such as the favelas in Brazil. So the idea is always the same, to give support to the civilian population that is affected by a conflict. And you do it like in 4 main ways, through the Department of Protection, through the Department of Health, of Water and Habitat, and the Department of Economic Security. Because the idea is like providing only health services in this context is helpful, but it's not the solution. So you need to have an integrated approach to this problem. So people in protection can come from like different backgrounds. I had some colleagues that were like former teachers, even at the primary school. It can be also engineers or people that study political science and other things. They deal with prisoners, so they do visits in the prisons to check if prisoners are in good conditions. In case of displacement of movement of people because of a conflict, they try to reach these people, try to understand their needs, and in case like link them back with their families, because like if you are awakened in a night because of a clash, I mean, most of the time it's common that like families are like separated. So the idea of people working in the protection department is like to relink the families. Then you have the health department, so usually you have nurses and doctors that they organize vaccination for people. They check if the hospital they have the basic equipments like drugs or like machines to operate, or they do trainings, first aid trainings. And you have the Water and Habitat, which is a department mainly driven by engineers that focus on the access for the civilians to water and electricity. So the idea is that if you don't have clean water, then you get sick. So the idea in a rural environment, you can create a well, so to get the water, or in a city you have to repair some tubes that are like all around the city. For electricity, same thing. I mean, for us it's normal just to switch on the light. In other contexts, you don't have this structure, but even in big cities, but like that are bombed, all these like lines and wires don't exist no more. So you need like to install generators for hospitals. Otherwise, like hospitals, they cannot work. The 4th department in terms of services is the economic security one. So the idea is that Any person should be independent from an economic point of view, which means that can eat and drink and restore or start again their activities. I was working in this department, so according to the context, there are like different things in South Sudan. We're mainly dealing with emergency distribution of food, so there were like people moving, but could be even, I know, tens of thousands of people like moving from a place to another, like by like walking for 50, 60 kilometers. They were like arriving without like any kind of food, so the idea was to provide, to give them some food at least to survive for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks in order to find out other solutions. And you could give also all the tools like pans or fire lighters, so basic things to eat. But in other contexts, like the most important thing is that people are not dependent on the aid, so they don't look for a food distribution every 2 weeks, but they start again doing the activity they were doing before. So it could be in a rural environment, could be providing people with seeds and tools for agriculture. In South Sudan there were like plenty of rivers, so we were giving to former or ex-fishermen some fishing nets. In other contexts, in Yemen, for instance, we had a lot of like farmers, so dealing with agriculture, but with all the irrigation system bombed, so the water could not go from the well to their fields. So it was like to restore all the irrigation network. In Syria, we were working mainly in cities, like in Aleppo. I was in Aleppo, in the north of Syria, which was a city of like 4 or 5 million people, and you had a lot of any kind of activity. It was like a city like with a lifestyle similar to Italy. So we were just providing some funds, some money to former hairdresser, plumbers, people working with the wood, businessmen. They needed just a small amount of money, maybe $500, $1,000 to rent a place, to buy some tools and to restart doing their job. All these activities are done by the delegates of the International Committee of the Red Cross, of the ICRC, with the local Red Cross and Red Crescent Society. So Red Cross in usually Christian countries, Red Crescent is in Muslim countries. Usually what we see is that, I mean, there are hundreds of millions of people that are in this situation in the world. The ICRC is working in more than 80 countries, and people are in this situation where, like, from one day to another, everything can change because of things that are completely like beyond their capacity. So you can be in your city, but I mean, in Aleppo could be similar to a lifestyle as in, I don't know, in Madrid or in Milano. And so, for instance, like I met several people sleeping like in tents or down the street with their family, but they were former lawyers, engineers, teachers, businessmen, the people that had like shops, that like from one day to another, like everything collapsed. So like the idea is really to try to support people that are victims of this situation. It's like very common in the world. I mean, it's amazingly sad that it's something that you can see like in many situations, and people just they are affected because of economic interests, political interests, because of like other countries that are financing rebel groups in your country, and then you lose everything. You lose everything completely. I mean, if you don't drink clean water, then you feel sick. But then you cannot go to the hospital to treat you, so you lose your job, you cannot pay your rent, so you sleep outside, and so you get sick again. And so this is like what we call a vicious circle that the ICRC, together with other organizations, is trying to compensate. I mean, no one is looking for like solving the problems, because problems are like more at the political level, but at least to provide some sort of support. I guess my time is finished. there will be like so many other things like to tell about this, the activities, especially in the field. If you have any questions, just I mean, through your teacher, your professor, you can just raise some questions, and I will try to reply if you're interested. Bye.